Hey everybody, I'm John and this is Blind Whiskey Reviews. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today here on Blind Whiskey Reviews, the most honest reviews on YouTube. As always, don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below so you know every time I'm putting out a new review and starting a new live stream. We just had a really good live stream this past weekend with Scott from the Scotch Test Dummies. We did a blind tasting and we had a few laughs, so if you have a minute, go back and check that one out. It was a lot of fun. So today we're going to be reviewing the McKenzie Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and like I mentioned in previous reviews, I would tell you if I got it provided by the distillery, and this one was provided along with a couple other whiskey samples to do on the channel. So this was a freebie given to me so I could review it, and I'm very excited to do with this one for you. So let's hop back in time and get to the whiskey. All right, everybody, let's get into the whiskey. As always, the color. This one is a deep amber, I would say. To the nose, light fruity nose right up front. Got the apple, maybe a touch of citrus. Definitely some caramel notes in there. Not too much of a burn on the nose, just a touch, and I got pretty far in there, so I'm thinking we're a low proof whiskey here, perhaps. Maybe a hint of vanilla in there as well. Smells good. Let's get into the taste. Cheers. I'm definitely going to need to take another sip of this one, but at first, very light on the palate, a lot of those fruity notes. But then when it got to the middle or back of the palate, it really kind of built up. It had this, the flavor really kind of built up quite a bit, and I'm left with some fruity characters, but that was my first sip. So let me get one more in and we'll get some more flavor notes here. Definitely light and fruity on the front of the tongue. A little more flavor now that I got the second taste of it. Maybe when that first taste was just warming my palate up to it. Light and fruity on the front. In the middle, it builds to kind of more of a medium mouthfeel. The flavor really punches up. You start getting more of those like brown sugar characters, some vanilla. I'm left with like a touch of citrus. Like there's like a acidic citrus kind of quality to it. There's some slight bitterness. Not tasting a ton of woody character on this, but it had a relatively dark color. Yeah, definitely more vanilla on the nose now that I've got some on the palate. Lighter fruits are really prominent still. That citrus character is kind of hiding there in the back. I think it's pretty good. Caramel notes are kind of buried in there. They're not super prominent, but they're there, and there's a little bit of complexity here. Not a ton, but a little bit. In terms of proof, it definitely feels lighter. Not a ton of burn on the tongue. Pretty light and smooth on the palate. The flavor does hang around a bit, but after a touch, it definitely dies out. You definitely don't get any burn down the chest. I'm going to say, proof-wise, I'm feeling like that 85 range is right about where we're at with this. You know, if it was maybe if it has a little bit of age on it, maybe it's all the way up to 90, but 85 feels pretty close to me. Let's add a couple of drops of water and just see if that does anything for us, helps us coax any more flavor out of here. Didn't see if that was 5 or 6, but either way, This isn't exact science here. Yeah, as water does for me, it really even punched up the fruit even more. Especially like those lighter fruits like the apple, kind of pear characters. Although the caramel notes are still there. Didn't change the flavor on the palate too much. Kicked up a little bit of bitterness more in the back. Still not tasting a ton of wood on this. There's maybe a hint of a woody character. So, I mean, if I'm trying to guess at an age, maybe we're more in that like 6-7 year range, give or take. So it's good. I wouldn't be adding water to it. It was already light on the palate to begin with, and adding water just lightened it up even more, which for me isn't a plus. So I would definitely not be adding water to this. In terms of a rating, I think it's a very good, solid whiskey. There's a little bit of complexity, not a ton. It's got some good flavors in there. It's pretty well balanced in terms of how the flavors hit you on the palate, and they do hit you in different places. So you can kind of explore those areas of your palate and kind of focus on different things and kind of as you go through the whiskey. So I think it's good. I'm going to give this an 86. I think it's good. Real good. And let's see what it is. This is McKenzie Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Very cool. Let me go grab the bottle and we'll talk about this one a little bit more. All right, we just finished our review of the McKenzie Straight Bourbon Whiskey. The distillery was nice enough to send along this little note card with it. So this is a straight bourbon whiskey, aged a minimum of 4 years in American oak. The mash bill is 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley. And it is 45.5% alcohol, 91 proof. So I think I said it was somewhere like 85 to 90, and I was feeling closer to 85. So it definitely drinks on the lighter side of what it is. 90 proof, it definitely felt like 90 proof in the flavor though, because it had a lot of good flavor coming through. So I was very impressed with that. It's only a 4-year-old age statement, so I don't know what it actually ends up being, but for a 4-year-old whiskey, this definitely has a lot of character to it. Like I mentioned in the review, I didn't feel like there was a lot of age on it because you just weren't getting any of those woody characters, but it was definitely smoother than I would think a 4-year-old whiskey would normally be, so that's pretty impressive. I've heard a lot of good things about this distillery, which is the Finger Lakes Distilling Co, and they're located in New York. And I've heard a lot of good things coming out of them. They're a very good distillery from what I hear, and a lot of people are really high on what they're making. So I'm really excited to kind of taste the other whiskeys that they've had. So I would love to hear what you guys think if you've had their whiskey. If you've had any of their different whiskeys. I know they have a rye out, they have a pot still whiskey out. So if you've had any of their line, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of their whiskey. So as for a value on this one, at the big box stores, this whiskey goes for right around $40. So not incredibly expensive, a little bit more expensive than maybe you'd get some of the bigger distilleries putting out a product at 90 proof, maybe it's a few dollars more, but I think it's worth it. I mean, I think it's a really good product that, like I mentioned, it has a lot of flavor, it drinks really smoothly, and it's always kind of cool to support these smaller distilleries and getting them up and going and getting their whiskey out to the world. So I think it's a little bit on the high price of the side for what it is, being a 4-year-old whiskey at 90 proof, but I don't think it's outrageously priced, and it's definitely worth giving a try if you have the chance. So again, if you've had McKenzie whiskey before, leave me a comment down below. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. You can send me an email at blindwhiskeyreviews, that's whiskey with an E, @gmail.com. And until next time, cheers.